In this video, I want to cover an additional footwork movement that's outside the 5 footwork movements you need to know that was covered in the previous video. And it's also outside the fighter's footwork program. So the question was, can you utilize using the step in and the step out, the holding your ground footwork movement, the very first one, where you simply in your fight stance and you're using it to cover distance and get a little bit more range in order to punch, in order to reach, but then you bounce back into your fight stance and you can go step in forward, or you go step back, avoid the strike, come back and strike your own, or as you're moving back, you can execute your own. So here you're not moving into a new position to strike from, you're simply gaining range or avoiding a strike and putting yourself outside range so you can bounce back into your fight stance to execute. And the question was, can you use lateral movement, just a single step to the side, to either side, to use along with the step in and the step out? So instead of going forward or backwards, you're using it as a lateral movement or more of a side step to one side or to the other. And the answer is yes. You could utilize the lateral side step movement, just a single step to the side, in order to put yourself off the center line, avoid the strike, and then bounce back into your fight stance. And you can do the same thing to the other side. From orthodox, with my right foot, I can step outside, just a single lateral side step, avoid the strike, put myself off the center line, and bounce back into a fight stance, maybe to execute my own. Now, there are a few caveats to this movement. It's not very widely used, because if you're going to move yourself out to the side, you might as well do a side step shuffle, or a better version would be a complete pivot. So you step and then you pivot. It moves you off the center line, just like the lateral side step out would do, but then it gives you an extra advantage to pivot and get an angle. So the lateral side step out, back in on both sides, it's not something that I would recommend you go with, because the pivot, the side step pivot is much better, or the side step shuffle is much better. It moves you off the center line and puts you in a new position, a new angle to strike from. But yes, you can absolutely utilize the lateral side step out, back in, to both sides. So here are a few important things you need to consider and start doing if you're going to be using the lateral side step out, back in, on both sides. The first part is the footwork movement. So in your fight stance, from orthodox, if you're going to be stepping to your left, the left foot should go first. If you're going to be stepping to your right, the right foot should go first. And of course it's reversed if you're in southpaw. Both of the movements, you are going to be going to the side. You're not going to be going forward, you're not covering distance. You're simply stepping out to the side like lateral movement. Here, to the side, and to the opposite side. So you're not going forward at an angle, you're not going forward like a step in, you're simply taking your foot from your fight stance and you are stepping to the side, maybe about a foot, in order to move yourself off the center line. Lateral step out, back in, step out, back in. Both movements, you are stepping out and you're popping back into your fight stance, exactly where you were before. This assumes two things. You are either within striking range, because you're not gaining distance, that's why you're doing the lateral side step, you are already within striking range, or you time them as they are coming in. So when they come in, and then you step to the side lateral, and you catch them as they're coming in, punch, and their face meets together. So you either are already within striking range as you move, or you timing them, and you strike as they moving in. The second part is moving your body and your head off the center line. So you don't want to just step, because right here nothing is happening. You just step and opening yourself up. You want to move to one side. So if you're moving to your left from orthodox, you want to move your head and your body, utilizing and moving yourself up the center line in order to position yourself much better and be more protected if they're thrown. So you're moving and utilizing your body and your head movement at the same time. And you're going to be doing this to both sides. So you could eliminate the step out, the lateral step out to both sides, and just utilize the head movement. But sometimes when you do that, you might be off balance. And this is where the lateral side step out is very helpful. So body and head movement alone sometimes can introduce you being off balance, so you can't really reposition to strike from because you are out of balance. But with the lateral side step out, you position yourself in a much better place to execute your power shots, because you are grounded and you are in balance. And then third is punching along with the same movement. So you have two ways of punching. You either punch at the same time as you move, timing them coming in, moving and punching at the same time if you're already within striking distance. Or you move and then you punch and execute and then pop back in. Another variation is you move, avoid their punching, and then you pop back in, execute your own. So there are three different variations. You're catching them as they're coming in at the same time, or you are moving, positioning yourself, and then you execute your strikes, or you move, avoid their strikes, pop back in, execute. And what I recommend for this footwork movement is doing it at the same time. So when you doing a lateral step out to the side, you execute your punch at the same time. So from orthodox, if I'm going to my left, if I'm stepping out, lateral side step out, I'm going to execute with the opposite hand. So I'm utilizing the body position and the torque at the same time. And for this, you can throw a couple of punches. You have your cross, you have your overhand, and you have your hook. Very powerful shots because you're combining your body momentum, you're stepping, and you're executing your power shot at the same time, while also, remember, moving your head up the center line and along with your body. Cross, hook, or overhand. And each time you execute, you position yourself back into your fight stance. Or you could follow up with a, let's say, cross. In this position, you execute your hook, uppercut, back to your fight stance. And if you go in the opposite way from your orthodox, so my right foot is moving first, doing a lateral side step out, then you should be throwing your left hand at the same time. So utilizing your body position, your momentum, stepping and throwing at the same time, while also making sure that you dip your body and you move your head up the center line as you execute this. And here, a good strike is, of course, a hook. You can throw a hook as you step, and you just follow through with a hook, catching them in. Again, if they're coming in, you want to time it at the same exact time they're moving, and you're stepping and you're throwing your hook. Lateral side step out, back to your fight stance. And once you reach this position, you already have your feet planted, and you can follow up with an uppercut or an overhand. Or you can just throw your hook, pop back into your position, clinch up, throw some knees, maybe elbows, or move, because they're already going to be right here within more close and shot range. If they're coming in, you're catching them, pop back in, and follow up with some other strikes when you're back in your fight stance. So there are a lot of things to consider here. So let me tell you what I recommend you should focus on. You should be throwing at the same time as you're doing a lateral step out. So this way you're not just stepping and then back into your fight stance, because then you're just in the same position and he's still coming, he's still throwing. So you should be throwing at the same time you're stepping. So if you're going to the left in orthodox, that's your power shot cross, your hook, your overhand. Going to the other way, just focus on the hook at the same time. And then you can just pop back into your fight stance and continue throwing, tie up, or do something else. The next step above is doing the same thing by stepping, throwing, but then right from this position, because your feet are already planted, you're already grounded, just execute your opposite strike, your hook to the body, hook to the head, uppercut, and then back into your fight stance. And that goes for the opposite way as well. If you're going to the right from orthodox, throwing your hook at the same time, then follow up with an uppercut or a hook, then back into your fight stance. Maybe tie up, throw knees, and just continue doing something else. Or you can introduce a pivot. So you're doing a lateral side step, you are throwing at the same time, and then right from this position, you're doing a pivot and then continuing your strikes. This is going to be highly effective for you, because not only are you striking at the same time, whether they're coming in or you're already within striking range and you're countering, but then you don't have to come back to the same position. Instead, you are using the spot and using it as a pivot to get an angle. And from here, you can execute more strikes, tie them up, or follow up with something else. And that goes for the opposite side as well. You're going to throw your hook at the same time as you're doing the lateral side step, and then right from this position, when your foot is planted, pivot on the rear foot, get this position, get the opposite stance, southpaw, tie up, throw some knees, or right from here, you can execute your strikes to deliver and just follow up with more shots. This is a great additional bonus fighter's footwork movement to introduce, but before you drill this one, make sure you got the fighter's 5 footwork movements down first. The ones that are covered in the previous video, as well as I went into depth in fighter's footwork program. In the program, I show you how to execute the first 5 that you need before you introduce this one, and then also combining those 5 with punching at the same time. So you get not only the footwork movement, but I also show you how to introduce punching at the same time as you move, which is essential and extremely important in fighting. So fighter's footwork program is available right now. You can pick it up, and I will see you in there.